To continue with our discussion class, we go with the protozoans. So protozoans, okay, as what we have discussed in the lecture, it came from the Greek word proto means first and zoans means animals. Okay. So pathogens are also found everywhere, so like viruses and prions. When we say prions, this is infective proteins that affects, of course, the central nervous system. Bacteria, rickettsiae, algae, fungi, protozoans, and of course the helminths. Okay. So protozoa came from the Greek word first, zoa, animal. So unicellular, one-celled animals. So that is more than 50,000 species, mostly free living found in the nature. So protozoan versus humans, mostly normally not harmful. In apparent mild infections are normally affected the humans or individuals. Sometimes life-threatening infections in immunosuppressed or immunocompromised patients like the acquired immune deficiency syndrome patients. So we have the Cytosporidium parvum, Toxoplasma gondii, Microsporidium or Microsporidia, okay, now known as fungi, and others. Okay, protozoa structured size, we have usually 10 to 50 micrometer. So smallest is 1 to 10 micrometer. Okay, largest is approximately 150 micrometer, known as Balantidium coli. Many organelles, nucleus or nuclei. We have the cytosome or cell mouth, food vacuoles, contractile vacuoles. This is used for the osmoregulations or used for the regulation of osmotic pressures. Golgi apparatus, mitochondrium, and lysosomes. So locomotive structure are known to be the itong tawag natin mga uh, Pseudopodia or flagella and cilia. Okay, so cell cycle and binary reproduction is known by asexual or binary. Okay, and we have sexual or various life stages. So for binary fission class, in stage 1, cell replicates in DNA. So this replication process or copying of that DNA with the parent, okay, cell wall, cytoplasmic membrane replicated, and followed by elongation process. Okay, so cytoplasmic membrane elongates, separating the DNA molecules, and there is a formation of the cleavage furrow, or known as the cross wall forms or membrane invaginations or invaginates. So cross wall form completely, and formation of two daughter cells. So this is known to be a binary fission process. So there is no sexual reproduction process. Okay. So sizes of microorganisms. So protozoa is fungi, 100 to 0.5 micrometer, and bacteria is 5 to 0.2 micrometer. Rickettsia chlamydiae, 500 to 200 nanometer. Viruses is 250 to 20 nanometer. Macromolecules 10 to 1 nanometer, and molecules 1 nanometer, and atoms followed by atoms. So usually this is considered to be larger compared with the other microorganisms, itong protozoans. Okay? So example, this is a paramecium. It has a cilia for locomotions. You have food vacuoles, the oral groove, or the cell mouth, or cytosomes, and they have the macromolecules and macronucleus, and contractile vacuoles, which functions for the regulation of osmotic pressures of the protozoan cells. For protozoa, of course, we have the trophocyte, known as the diagnostic stage. Okay, and cyst is also known as diagnostic and infectious stage. Okay, so for protozoan classification, we have protozoa. We have the Sarcomastigophora apicomplexia are known as the subclass Sarcodina, Intameba coli, intestinalis, and you have the Histolytica. You have Mastibicora, trypanosomes, Leishmania, Giardia, Trichomonas vaginalis, Sarcosidia with Ismeria, Isospora, Cytosporidium, Parvum, Toxoplasma, Sarcocystis. The Pyroplasma is Babesia and the Cytoxazone, the Hemosporidia, Plasmodium, the Hemoprotubes, and the leukocytozoans. Okay, so this is known to be the protozoans. So Entamoeba histolytica is considered to be infectious also. The Sarcomastigophora, Sarcodina, okay. It is a cyst. It is known to be a cyst. Ang cyst is 10 to 20 micrometer, okay. And it has a 4 nuclei, 2 chromatoidal bars or chromatids, Trophozoite is 12 to 50 micrometer, one nucleus, and actively mobile. So a reproduction process with binary fission of trophozoite, okay, develop of several up to 4 trophozoites within the mature multinucleated cyst. When say multinucleated cyst, like the nuclei, unlike the cyst, I mean that contains 4 nuclei that is multinucleated. So for the life cycle cause, usually we have the life cycle of the Amoeba histolytica. Okay, usually a trophozoite, okay, undergoes the binary fissions. Okay, so inside we have the amebulae, which is known to be the small amoeba, which contains also what we call this one nucleus. Okay, so trophozoite undergoes binary fissions, develop into a precystic form. So it is found in the lumen of intestine, rarely found in the tissues, and it will develop into a cyst. Then the cyst, of course, develop into a binucleate cyst, wherein it forms another nucleus. So there is two nucleus, that is why it is binucleate, and it will undergo another formation of two cysts that will lead to form quadrinucleate or multinucleated cysts. Okay? And then of course yung sa glycogen vacuoles class in the intestinal lumen, usually it will undergo the encysment process, releasing the metacystic amoeba. So metacystic amoeba class, it contains lot of cysts, then follows the elongation process or the division process, and it will form of course a cyst again, so that is found in the ectoplasm. Okay, then of course it will form into a trophozoites, and inside the trophozoite there is amebulae. So amebulae contains a lot of nuclei. So that is the life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica. Okay, life cycle of Entamoeba histolytica class, yung matured cyst, which is known to be yung multinucleated, is ingested by what we call this by humans via contaminated water or food. Okay, it is known to be the infective stage or diagnostic stage. So usually they infect when they are inside the body. Usually they go to the lungs, even the liver, okay, even the brain, okay, and in the intestine. Okay, usually sa intestine, ito yung natawag natin mga diagnostic stage yan. Okay, so again, so the trophozoites develop into a cyst by binary fissions. So magkaroon muna ng precystic, then it will develop into a binucleated cyst to quadrinucleated cyst. Then of course, from that by quadrinucleated cyst, or natawag natin na matured cyst, okay, then it will develop again into a metacystic form down to develop again into a trophozoite. And this trophozoite, the trophozoite class is the diagnostic. Being released, then again develop into a cyst. So this is infective stage and diagnostic stage. Cysts and trophozoites passes through the feces. So both pwede maging diagnostic. Pero yung infective stage is the cyst. Okay? So, mga non-invasive colonization class, usually, nandoon lang sa colon. Mga intestinal disease, usually intestinal disease, ito yung affects the intestine or the lumen. Extra intestinal diseases siya, usually ito yung nasa brain or other parts of the organs of the body. So, excitation class develop into trophozoite, and then magkaroon ng multiplication process. Ito yung trophozoite, the diagnostic form. So, we have the precystic, binary, and then multi, and we have the matured cyst already. Okay, epidemiology of Entamoeba histolytica worldwide, prevalence, developing countries, sometimes 50 to 80% developing countries, usually in the Philippines. Okay, in other countries like India, mga poor yung sanitation nila. Okay, mga thickly populated area. Okay, so most of the patients are considered, or infections are inapparent or asymptomatic. Okay, still shed larger number of cysts in their feces. So incubation period 1 to 4 weeks. So there is mild GI symptoms, yung abdominal pain, cramps, colitis, masakit yung inflammation of the colon, diarrhea, bloody diarrhea or amoebic dysentery na. High-risk groups, travelers, recent immigrants, male homosexuals, and institutions. Okay, yun naman mga travelers, you travel from one area to what unfamiliar area, so you don't have to drink water there. So you have to bring your bottled water. That unless that is a flowing spring, so pwede kayong uminom doon. Okay, mga bago pa lang ikaw sa lugar, kumain ka ng mga contaminated food. So, pwede ka magkaroon yung tawag natin na amoebiasis. So, homosexual, of course, you know naman mga homosexual male, okay, engage in the extracurricular activities. Okay? Next, epidemiology or Entamoeba histolytica, reservoir, usually yung human is the only host. Okay? Transmission, direct transmission, sexually transmissions, fecal oral route, waterborne, foodborne. For prevention class in adequate sanitations and excreta disposal, provisions of non-fecally contaminated water, okay, and food. So kinahanglan yung sanitation is considered to be highly sanitized yung isang lugar, okay. Maganda yung natawag natin na mga excreta disposal nila. So, you know what, in building a house class, dapat yung Poso Negro mo is almost 5 meters away, okay, from that deep well or source of water, okay. So, 5 or even 10 meters to avoid the contaminations, okay. So we have Giardia lamblia class. This one, the class Mastigophora. So cis is 8 to 14 micrometer, 2 to 4 nuclei lang. Cystic wall is 0.3 micrometer. So tropozoite heart shape yan yung class. Usually flagellated siya. So may 8 flagellas, 2 nuclei, 10 to 8 micrometer long and 6 to 8 micrometer wide. Okay. So reproduction is binary fissions of tropozoites. That is Giardia lamblia. Okay. So life cycle Giardia lamblia class usually begins when human consume contaminated water or ingest contaminated water or by fecal oral transmissions are common routes of infections. So usually when that humans, many animals, especially beavers, are reservoirs of the infections. Okay. So usually they release the ano class the feces usually dito sa mga waterborne transmission common route of infections. So when swallowed by the host, cysts pass through the stomach and exist into the duodenum. So existing ito sa duodenum, lalabas yung tawag natin na tropozoite once flagellated. So Giardia lamblia live in the duodenum, yun sa large intestine, jejunum, upper ileum of the humans. They attach to the surface. Usually they are surface epithelial cells using their adhesive disc. Ito yung adhesive disc, nakatapik siya. Okay? And of course, it undergoes binary fission, so yung tawag natin na division process nila, and can swim rapidly using the multiple flagella. In severe infections, nearly every intestinal cells is covered by a parasite. So once metastasize na siya, o damo na sa lawas, maglapda na siya doon sa katinaya, sa lawas ha. In the colon, as feces begins dehydrate, Giardia lamblia begins encysment. So mag-form siya ng cyst. The cysts are then passed into the environment. Usually dito sa mga water, okay? Or tabak sa inyo yung mga excretabala or Poso Negro that is near to the source of water. So usually prone yan sa Giardia lamblia contamination. So yun ang pwede mainom ng mga tao. Okay? Giardiasis, again, contamination of water and food, hands fomites with infective cysts. Usually mga fomites ang tawag doon. Ang mga things na ginagamit ng mga cellphone fomites, kung contaminated siya ng cyst, pwede natin sa maharbor. Okay, this is the infective stage is known to be the cyst, that is quadri, okay, or 2 to 4. Okay, and then in the humans, undergone binary fissions, develop into a cyst. Tropozoites are also passed through the feces. The cyst is the infective stage, the diagnostic stage, and also the tropozoite. Both are the diagnostic stage na sila. So usually ang cyst develop into tropozoite, then of course magkaroon ng binary fissions, then yung tropozoite develop into cyst. Both are being released in the human body, okay, through feces. Next, epidemiology of Giardia lamblia worldwide. So infectious dose, approximately 10 cysts, pwede na. Incubation period up to 1 to 14 days. Duration of illness 1 to 3 weeks. Ito yung symptoms niya. Nausea, vomiting, anorexia, low grade level, flu-like headache, several malaise, walang urga, weakness, weight loss, distension, profuse, greasy, bulky, and foul-smelling diarrhea. So, tama ka ba sa imong ano ba? Si may giardia lamblia, okay? Fecal shedding, okay? Itong fecal shedding, ito yung mga cysts that are found, okay? Level in sewage, so 3,000 to 30,000 cysts per liter. Take note. 1 liter niya, ganun kadamo So, high-risk group, children in daycare centers, immunocompromised patient, immunosuppressed people, institutions of populations, meaning yung mga thickly populated area, especially mga squatter area, or area that are the sanitation is very poor. Okay, the source of water is near the septic tank, so medyo prone sila sa Giardia lamblia infections. So, reservoir human animals. So, ito, muskrat, elk, deer, bones. So, usually sa sa Philippines, usually, of course, mga reservoir humans. Okay? Even the mouse, Okay? Transmission fomites, waterborne, and foodborne. Prevention, personal hygiene, surface disinfection, water treatment, food safety program. So, yun mga pagkaon na kinahanglan we have to protect. Okay? So, these are known to be the prevention. So, yung drugs naman, pwede naman yung metronidazole. Okay? Metronidazole plus cotrimoxazole. Okay? That is 3 times a day for 7 days. Plus yung cotri. So, cotri is given to enhance the effect of metronidazole. You have Cytosporidium parvum, Apicomplexia, Coccidia, known as oocysts, 4 to 6 micrometer, form sporocytes, thick oocyst 1. So, sporocyte, no locomotive structure. So, ang reproduction niya ng Cytosporidium parvum is both sexual and asexual. We have Balantidium coli, Ciliospora cis, 50 to 70 micrometer, 2 nuclei. We have virus vacuoles, Tropozoite, 50 to 100 micrometer long, 40 to 70 micrometer wide, 2 nuclei, mini vacuoles, locomotive method cilia, reproduction, binary fission of tropozoites. So, life cycle of Balantidium coli, ano yan? Again, disease usually found in the contaminated food or water, so it is ingested by humans. Some tropozoites invade the wall of the colon. So usually it releases disease, which is known to be the infective and diagnostic stage. Okay, cyst, the tropozoite, then undergoes the binary fissions, then develop into a tropozoite again. So this tropozoite is the infective and diagnostic stage of Balantidium coli. So the disease is known as Balantidiasis. So, epidemiology worldwide, mostly asymptomatic or similar to amoebiasis. Take note, humans and animals are reservoir, chimpanzees, pigs, transmission, waterborne, foodborne. So, prevention, of course, yung personal hygiene, water treatment, and food safety program. So, Toxoplasma gondii or oocysts, Apicomplexia or Coccidia. So, 2 phases, we have unsporulated and sporulated, 2 sporocysts and 4 sporocysts. Distinctive wall cells, so 2 layers, scattered UV or ultraviolet, makita sa highly persistent in the environment, soil in months, moist conditions in years. So ito yung survival ng tawag na Toxoplasma gondii. Okay. Toxoplasmosis is the disease So other infectious forms, so we have tracheostoid, okay. Tachyzoid, crescent shape yan, rapidly multiplying, transmitted through placenta. Bradyzoid, slowly moving, tissues intermediate host, okay. Reproduction, both sexual and asexual. So, yung intermediate host, and we have the definitive host. Okay? Sexual definitive. Pag intermediate yung asexual. Okay? The Toxoplasma gondii, class of Toxoplasmosis, usually, it begins with the definitive host known as the host. The cat. So, ito yung cat class, usually, ito yung nakaroon ng sexual stages. The unsporulated oocyst is passed into feces. Okay, then it will be developed into oocysts or sporulated, undergoes sporulation oocysts, and the oocysts feed with water soil ingested by the tawag natin mga domesticated animals. For example, yung intermediate host natin, pigs, goats, etc., chicken, okay, and contaminated food and water. For example, ang food and water mo, wala mo ang karnita, wala mo may na na luto, so it will be ingested by humans. So pwede siya mag-affect sa fetus. So tachyzoids, it will be transmitted to the via placenta. Okay? So tissue cysts ingested into unaffected or uncooked meat. So please take note, tissues and cysts intermediate hosts usually found in animals, not only in cats or but also with domesticated animals. Okay. So epidemiology worldwide, usually prevalence in France, okay? High prevalence in Central America, large number of stray cats. Sa Philippines meron immunocompetent people, mostly asymptomatic, some flu-like, swollen limb, glands, muscle aches, and pains. So immunocompromised life-threatening central nervous system disease, encephalitis, cause blindness, myocarditis, pneumonia, congenital infected children, so impaired visions, mental retardation, fecal shedding class, take note, yung 10 to 5 oocysts per gram. Yung fecal shedding yun, makikita mo yung number of disease or oocysts. High risk groups, infant, born in infected mothers, and of immunosuppressed people or immunocompromised people. Okay. We have Microsporidia, new phylum, 143 genera, more than 1,200 species, usually 14 identified in humans, so produced by resistant spores, usually small, 1 to 4 micrometer. Unique organelle, okay? Polar tubule, so coiled inside the spores, inject infective spores contents of the host cells. Okay? Ano yung mga Microsporidia class? So we have uh, the the infective stage and the diagnostic stage of the enterocytozoans Benusi, Helium, Caniculi intestinalis. Okay, this is entero Zytozoan benuisi, or we have the Encephalizoans intestinalis class. So this is known to be the life cycle nila. Yun pa rin class, kung contaminated siya, usually humans will harbor that one. Okay? So kung contaminated siya, so usually it will affect, of course, the brain, the liver, the liver, I mean, in the lungs, and also the small and large intestine. Okay, ito yung mga enterozoans benuisi and the encephalizoans intestinalis. Okay? So, Microsporidia worldwide ang distribution nito. Symptoms, immunocompetent, asymptomatic individual, may diarrhea, immunocompromised people, yung chronic diarrhea, madugay na diarrhea, conjunctivitis, that is inflammation of the conjunctiva of the eyes, bronchitis, pneumonia, and even hepatitis. Reservoir, human, animals, yung rabbit, mice, dogs, pigs. Okay? So, kung hindi maayo ang pag-take care sa mga domesticated animals, sa mga alaga nyo, base, contaminated siya ng Microsporidium o mga encephalozoan. Okay? Intestinalis. Trypanosomes o sleeping sickness, African tsetse fly o Chagas disease. We have Acanthamoeba, Balamutia madrillaris, Negrillia fowleri, Pneumocystis carinii, now known as Pneumocystis girovacea as fungus. So take note of this one. It has already been discussed in the lab, okay, in the lecture. Okay.